are the topics that will be covered in the President's revision video. This video will focus on direct authority. In response to the frustration of checks and gridlock, presidents resort to the use of what we might call direct authority. These are actions that require no congressional approval and yet can achieve some of the political goals that presidents seek. There are 4 types of direct authority that a president can use: executive orders, signing statements, recess appointments, and executive agreements. Executive order. The official definition is an official document issued by the executive branch with the effect of law, through which the president directs federal officials to take certain actions. Executive orders have the effect of law and they depend on some grant of authority in the Constitution, but they are what we call an extra constitutional power. They do not require congressional approval. They are often drafted into the departments and agencies of the federal government and sometimes into the OMB. In either case, the OMB has developed the role of executive order clearance. This means they screen them in order to make sure that they fit with the president's policy, interests, and with existing law. Although the public's awareness of executive orders has increased in the last few years, they are no means a new phenomenon. FDR issued over 3,000 executive orders in just over 12 years. In 1961, Kennedy introduced the term affirmative action to federal policy through the Executive Order 1925. This required federal contractors to take affirmative action to ensure equal treatment of employees and job applicants without regard to race, creed, colour, or national origin. However, just as executive orders are easy for the president to issue, they are also easy for a successor to revoke. For example, in 1984, Reagan signed the executive order which banned family planning clinics from informing clients about abortion options. In 1993, Clinton revoked this. In 2001, Bush Jr. reinstated it, and then in 2009, Obama revoked it again. Signing statements. The definition is a statement issued by the President on signing a bill which they challenge specific provisions of the bill on constitutional or other grounds. Signing statements date back as far as President James Monroe, who was president from 1817 to 1825. Presidents who used them the most were Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush, and Bill Clinton. George W. Bush and Obama actually issued fewer signing statements, just as they were becoming more widely talked about and very controversial. Earlier presidents had issued signing statements more often to add a commentary or some celebratory note to the bill that they are signing. But George W. Bush's signing statements increasingly challenged the constitutionality of some parts of the bills that they were signing into law. This has opened up a debate about whether or not these statements are legitimate. Critics of signing statements claim that this is often an overuse of presidential power, that the correct and constitutional course of action would be for the president to either veto the bill or to await a ruling on the law's constitutionality from the Supreme Court. By using signing statements, presidents seem to be adding a fourth option by only signing part of the bill into law. In effect, an A-line veto option is now there. This is a power that presidents have always sought and was granted in 1996, but was then declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 1998. Under the Appointments Clause of the Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, the President and the Senate share the power to fill high-level politically appointed positions in the federal government. But the Recess Appointments Clause in paragraph 3 also empowers the President to make temporary appointments to such a position if it is vacant and the Senate is in recess, and thereby unable to confirm the appointment. Such an appointment is referred to as a recess appointment, and it always expires at the end of the following session of the Senate. You can see why the Founding Fathers intended this clause into the Constitution, as for the first century and more, the Senate was only in session for less than half the year. Just like executive orders, which I will talk about in a moment, recess appointments have flourished in the new era of partisanship. Presidents began to see them as a way around the Senate. Getting wise to this, the Senate began to hold so-called pro forma sessions with just one senator present every few days during recesses, thereby stopping the president from making a recess appointment. A good example of recess appointments is in January 2012 during the Christmas-New Year recess. President Obama made 3 recess appointments to the National Labor Relations Board. The following month, the NLRB ruled against the Noel Canning Corporation in a labour dispute, but the Noel Group appealed the ruling, claiming that as the majority of the NLRB members were recess appointees when the Senate had not been in recess at all, the board's ruling had no legal standing. In the case of the National Labour Relations Board versus Noel Canning in 2014, the Supreme Court ruled that the President had exceeded his powers in making the recess appointments. An executive agreement is an agreement that is reached between the President and a foreign nation on matters that do not require a formal treaty. The first recorded executive agreement was signed by James Monroe in 1817, and for the next 100 years numbers remained relatively small, but they started to pick up in the 20th century under Theodore Roosevelt in 1901 to 1909. Subsequent presidents have signed an average of 200 per year, with a peak of over 300 per year reached under Carter, Reagan, and Bush Jr. They cover matters such as basing American troops on foreign soil and resolving claims made by one citizen of one country against the government of another. They can also be concerned with regulating international trade or anti-terrorism policies. Executive agreements are generally made as political devices to circumvent the Senate, because executive agreements, unlike treaties, do not need the Senate to ratify them. They can be especially useful if the Senate is controlled by the opposing party, but there is a price to pay, as senators jealously guard their powers in foreign policy. When President Clinton cut a deal with North Korea in 1994 by signing an executive agreement rather than a treaty, a number of Republican senators, including John McCain, went ballistic, saying that the deal should have been brought before Congress. This is an example of the Constitution inviting a power struggle between the President and Congress.